Elvis Presley's attic was opened after 48 years, and what was inside is shocking. For nearly 5 decades, a secret has been hiding above the most famous musical residence in America. While millions of fans have toured Graceland since it opened to the public in 1982, walking through the jungle room, marveling at the mirrored staircase, and paying respects at the meditation garden, there's one space that remained completely sealed off from prying eyes. The attic of Elvis Presley's Graceland estate, locked, secured, and allegedly untouched since the day the king died in 1977. No cameras, no tours, no explanations why. Even family members rarely acknowledged its existence. But in 2025, after 48 years of speculation and mystery, archivists finally breached this forbidden zone. And what they discovered inside wasn't just shocking, it might completely change everything we thought we knew about Elvis Presley, his final days, and the secrets he took to his grave. The question isn't just what was in the attic, but why the Presley estate kept it hidden for so long.
The presentation still the same way it was, or have you improved on that?
I just do whatever I feel on stage,
The forbidden space. Graceland, with its columned facade and sprawling 13.8-acre estate, has been preserved as a time capsule since Elvis Presley's shocking death on August 16, 1977. Each year, hundreds of thousands of visitors walk through the mansion's first floor and basement, marveling at the preserved rooms that still look exactly as they did when the king of rock and roll roamed these halls. But there's always been one area conspicuously absent from the tour: the mysterious attic space that spans nearly the entire footprint of the mansion. It wasn't just off-limits, reveals former Graceland tour manager Raymond Phillips. It was something we were specifically instructed never to mention. If guests asked about upper floors or storage spaces, we were trained to redirect conversation immediately to another topic. The official line was that nothing of interest was up there, but the security measures suggested otherwise. Those security measures were extraordinarily thorough. Unlike other private areas of Graceland, which simply remained unstaffed during tours, the attic entrance was physically sealed with multiple locks, an alarm system, and according to several maintenance workers, the door was actually reinforced and nailed shut from the inside shortly after Elvis's death. You have to understand how unusual this was, explains Memphis historian Dorothy Winters. After Elvis died, Priscilla and the estate managers documented and preserved virtually everything: his cars, his jumpsuits, even half-empty bottles of his cologne. Their mission was preservation. So why would they seal off an entire section of Graceland and pretend it didn't exist? That question has fueled speculation for decades. Even more intriguing were the rumors that circulated among the inner circle of Memphis Mafia members, Elvis's entourage and confidants who knew the truth about what the attic contained. Jerry Schilling, one of Elvis's closest friends, once cryptically told a journalist in 1993 that some spaces contain memories that might be better left undisturbed. When pressed for clarification, he abruptly ended the interview. What made the mystery even more compelling was the complete silence from the Presley family themselves. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, who lived at Graceland until his death in 1979, reportedly refused to go near the attic in his final 2 years. Priscilla Presley, despite being instrumental in transforming Graceland into a tourist destination, never publicly acknowledged any special significance to the attic in interviews. Most tellingly, Lisa Marie Presley, who inherited Graceland on her 25th birthday, maintained the strict no-access policy throughout her lifetime. There was this unspoken agreement among everyone connected to Graceland, notes celebrity estate attorney Martin Rothstein. Whatever was up there, a decision had been made at the highest levels to leave it undisturbed. That kind of coordinated silence doesn't happen without serious reason. By the early 2000s, the mystery had faded somewhat from public consciousness. Occasional tabloid stories would speculate about hidden treasures or dark secrets, but without evidence, these remained in the realm of sensationalism rather than serious investigation. The attic had become Graceland's equivalent of the restricted section in a library, acknowledged by omission rather than direct reference. But everything changed with the unexpected passing of Lisa Marie Presley in January 2023. Her death at just 54 years old not only shocked the world, but set in motion a complex chain of estate maneuvers that would eventually lead to the breaking of the attic's long silence. Lisa Marie was the guardian of her father's legacy, explains Presley family biographer Elaine Jordan. Whatever was in that attic, she had honored the decision to keep it sealed. With her gone, new legal questions arose about Graceland's complete inventory that couldn't be ignored any longer. Those questions would finally force open a door that had remained closed for nearly half a century, and what waited on the other side would prove more bizarre and revealing than anyone had imagined.
Actually, they only got over there about 2 months before I left. I was seeing her, and she was at the airport when I left. And
the legal battle to unseal the past. The death of Lisa Marie Presley created a complicated succession scenario for the Presley estate. While Graceland itself would pass to her children, Riley, Harper, and Finley, the management of Elvis Presley Enterprises and the legal responsibility for maintaining his legacy fell into a complex web of trusts, executors, and corporate entities. When a major celebrity estate changes hands, particularly one with ongoing revenue streams like Elvis's, complete inventories are legally required, explains entertainment estate attorney Caroline Blackwood. This isn't just about physical property, it's about intellectual property, unreleased materials, and anything that might have commercial or historical value. This legal requirement set the stage for the unprecedented decision to finally open the sealed attic. Court documents filed in Shelby County, Tennessee in late 2023 reveal that Riley Keough, Lisa Marie's eldest daughter and Elvis's granddaughter, petitioned for a complete inventory of all Graceland properties, specifically including previously restricted or sealed areas containing potential intellectual property of the original estate holder. The petition met unexpected resistance from several quarters. Priscilla Presley initially filed an objection, arguing that certain spaces within Graceland had been sealed in accordance with the expressed wishes of Elvis Presley himself and should remain undisturbed. Elvis Presley Enterprises similarly requested that any inventory be conducted without disturbing historically sensitive areas designated as permanently private by prior estate holders. The resulting legal battle played out largely behind closed doors, with court records sealed to prevent media speculation. What we do know comes from insiders familiar with the proceedings and limited public statements from the parties involved. There was tremendous anxiety around this attic, reveals a legal clerk who worked on the case and requested anonymity. This wasn't just about cataloging some old memorabilia. There were genuine concerns that whatever was up there could potentially affect Elvis's public image or legacy. Some parties wanted it left alone forever. Others argued the truth, whatever it was, deserved to be known. The breakthrough came in January 2025, when Judge Raymond Torres ruled that a complete inventory was not just legally required, but essential to proper estate administration. His ruling, portions of which became public, stated, "While the court acknowledges the desire for privacy expressed by various parties, no space within a managed estate property can remain permanently exempt from legal inventory, regardless of historical practice or familial preference." With this ruling, the door to the attic, literally and figuratively, was finally ordered unlocked. A small team was assembled for the task. 2 court-appointed archivists with experience in historical preservation, a representative from Elvis Presley Enterprises, Riley Keough representing the Presley family, and a court officer to ensure proper documentation. The physical unsealing itself was more complicated than anyone anticipated, explains Darren Morris, a preservation specialist consulted on the process. This wasn't just a locked door. Over the decades, multiple security systems had been installed, then upgraded, then forgotten. The entrance had been reinforced with additional framing, and at some point in the late 1970s, it appears the original door had actually been replaced with a steel core security door more commonly found in commercial buildings than homes. These excessive security measures only heightened the anticipation about what might be found inside. Was this simply Elvis's personal storage, kept private out of respect? Or was there something more significant, something that explained nearly 5 decades of secrecy? On February 16, 2025, exactly 2 weeks after Judge Torres's ruling, the team gathered at Graceland after public hours. With specialized tools and the original blueprints of the mansion, they prepared to enter a space that had remained sealed since the day Elvis Presley's heart stopped beating on August 16, 1977. No one could have predicted what they would find inside. The shocking contents revealed. As the reinforced attic door finally swung open, the small team was immediately struck by 2 things: the musty smell of undisturbed air that hadn't circulated in nearly 5 decades, and the surprising orderliness of the space they entered. This wasn't a haphazard storage area, but a deliberately organized room that spanned nearly 1,200 square feet under the mansion's roofline. It was like stepping into a time capsule, described one of the archivists present that day. The space was meticulously arranged, not dusty or chaotic like most long-abandoned attics. This was a room that had been carefully prepared and then left exactly as it was the last time someone walked out and locked the door behind them. The contents of the attic can be divided into several distinct and increasingly bizarre categories, each more revealing than the last. First, there were the audio recordings, dozens of unmarked reel-to-reel tapes and cassettes stored in a climate-controlled cabinet that had been specially installed, suggesting these weren't casual recordings but deliberately preserved audio documents. Most were labeled only with dates ranging from 1973 to August 1977, just days before Elvis's death. 5 tapes bore the explicit marking, "Private, do not duplicate," in what handwriting experts would later confirm was Elvis's own penmanship. The existence of these tapes is extraordinary, explains Elvis historian Peter Guralnick. We know Elvis rarely recorded personal thoughts or kept a journal. The discovery of potentially hours of private recordings from his final years could completely transform our understanding of his state of mind during that troubled period. Even more intriguing was the discovery of an extensive collection of pharmaceutical bottles, some prescription, some unmarked, meticulously organized in a locked medicine cabinet. Unlike the chaotic mix of medications found in Elvis's bathroom after his death, these were categorized with handwritten notes about effects, dosages, and dates. A leather-bound journal nearby appeared to track usage patterns and physical responses to various combinations. This wasn't just storage, it was documentation, observes medical historian Dr. Rebecca Chen. The organization suggests someone, possibly Elvis himself, was methodically tracking his medication use, perhaps trying to understand or manage his growing dependency. It's a far cry from the image of chaotic addiction often portrayed. The third category of items proved even more personally revealing: correspondence. Several boxes contained hundreds of letters, many still in their original envelopes. While the complete contents haven't been disclosed, sources familiar with the inventory confirm they include extensive communication with various celebrities, politicians, and spiritual advisors, some of whom had never been publicly associated with Elvis before. Most notable was a sealed envelope placed prominently on a small writing desk, marked simply, "To be opened after my death," in Elvis's handwriting. This document has generated perhaps the most speculation. While its contents remain private, those who have seen it describe it as a deeply personal letter addressing both family members and fans, expressing concerns about how he would be remembered. The letter suggests Elvis was acutely aware of his declining health and legacy, reveals a source close to the inventory process. It's not a suicide note, but it definitely shows someone who feared his story might end soon and wanted some control over the narrative that would follow. But the most visually shocking discovery, the one that has fueled endless speculation since rumors of it first leaked, was what awaited them at the center of the room. A life-sized mannequin seated in an ornate chair, dressed in one of Elvis's custom-made jumpsuits, never seen in public performances. The figure was positioned facing the door, creating an eerie impression for anyone entering the space. It looked posed, preserved, almost ceremonial, described one witness. The mannequin was dressed in a white jumpsuit with blue and gold embellishments, one Elvis had commissioned but apparently never wore publicly. Most unsettling was the attention to detail. The figure had been styled with Elvis's hair pattern, his jewelry, even his sunglasses positioned exactly as he wore them. Surrounding this central figure was what can only be described as a shrine-like arrangement. Personal items from different periods of Elvis's life, photographs spanning from his childhood to his final years, and religious artifacts reflecting his complex spiritual interests that combined Christianity with explorations of other faiths and metaphysical practices. It wasn't a tribute room, notes religious studies professor Dr. Martha Simmons, who was consulted on some of the artifacts. This was a deeply personal space that reflected Elvis's private spiritual journey, one far more complex than his public image suggested. The arrangement of objects follows patterns seen in certain meditation practices, creating a space for reflection and perhaps communion with different aspects of his own identity. The final shocking element discovered was a collection of journals dating back to 1973, filled with increasingly introspective and sometimes troubling reflections. While the full contents remain private, Sources confirm they reveal Elvis's growing sense of entrapment in his public persona, conflicts with Colonel Parker about career directions, and sophisticated spiritual and philosophical explorations that contradict the simplified image of Elvis often presented to the public. One journal entry from June 1977, just months before his death, reportedly reads, "The person they come to see doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. I've built a mask so perfect I can't take it off without tearing away my own face." As word of these discoveries has gradually leaked to the public, they've sparked a fundamental reassessment of who Elvis Presley really was behind the carefully constructed image that has endured for decades after his death. Theories and implications. The discovery of Elvis Presley's sealed attic and its contents has generated intense speculation among historians, fans, and cultural analysts. While the Presley estate has maintained tight control over specific details, particularly the contents of the private recordings and personal journals, enough information has emerged to fuel several compelling theories about what this time capsule actually represents. The most straightforward interpretation suggests the attic served as Elvis's private sanctuary, a space where he could explore aspects of his identity and interests that didn't fit with his carefully crafted public image. The spiritual artifacts, personal journals, and organized documentation of his medication use paint a picture of someone struggling to understand himself beyond the caricature he had become in the public eye. Elvis was trapped in an impossible situation, explains celebrity psychology expert Dr. Rachel Werner. By the 1970s, he had become almost a parody of himself, expected to perform a specific version of Elvis that had little connection to who he actually was as an evolving human being. The attic contents suggest he was actively seeking to reclaim, or at least document, his authentic self away from public scrutiny. This theory is supported by several journal entries that reportedly describe the attic as the only place where I can be myself without watching myself being myself. According to sources familiar with the writings, Elvis repeatedly referenced feeling like he was playing Elvis, rather than being allowed to evolve naturally as an artist and person. A more controversial interpretation focuses on the pharmaceutical documentation found in the space. Some medical experts who have reviewed the available information suggest Elvis may have been self-medicating for undiagnosed conditions beyond what his doctors were treating him for. The methodical tracking of medications and their effects doesn't align with the behavior of someone simply abusing drugs, argues Dr. Thomas Keller, a specialist in historical medical practices. This looks more like someone attempting to manage chronic symptoms when conventional treatment was failing them. It raises serious questions about whether Elvis had underlying health conditions that were either missed or inadequately addressed by his physicians. This theory has gained traction following the revelation that among the journals was a handwritten list of symptoms dating back to the early 1970s, including severe headaches, vision disturbances, and extreme fatigue, that align with several conditions that would have been poorly understood at the time, including autoimmune disorders that can affect the central nervous system. Perhaps the most unsettling theory centers on the mannequin found at the heart of the attic arrangement. Cultural anthropologists have noted similarities between this setup and certain spiritual practices that involve creating physical representations as focal points for meditation or communion with different aspects of the self. The arrangement has elements that resemble both Christian contemplative practices and Eastern meditation traditions, observes religious studies professor Dr. James Morrison. The positioning of the mannequin, dressed as the public Elvis but in a private, never-worn costume, facing the entrance suggests a symbolic confrontation between his external persona and his authentic self each time he entered this space. Adding to the mystery are the 5 cassette tapes marked "Private, Do Not Duplicate" in Elvis's handwriting. While their contents remain closely guarded, individuals who claim knowledge of the recordings describe them as confessional in nature, with Elvis speaking directly to an unnamed listener about his fears, regrets, and growing sense that his life had spun beyond his control. One tape reportedly contains a lengthy monologue about Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's notoriously controlling manager. In it, Elvis allegedly expresses feeling trapped and blackmailed into continuing certain aspects of his career against his creative instincts. This would align with growing historical evidence that Parker, who was later revealed to be an illegal immigrant from the Netherlands named Andreas van Kuijk, may have maintained his control over Elvis through more complex means, than previously understood. If these recordings contain what sources claim, they could fundamentally alter our understanding of the Elvis-Colonel relationship, notes music industry historian Peter Davidson. The narrative has always been that Elvis was a willing, if sometimes reluctant, participant in his career choices. These tapes might reveal a much darker dynamic. Perhaps most disturbing are the rumors of a partially burned photograph reportedly found in a sealed envelope inside one of the journals. According to sources close to the inventory team, the photograph appears to show an unidentified man inside Graceland in late August 1977, days after Elvis's official death date. While this claim has been dismissed by the Presley estate as irresponsible speculation, it has fueled fringe theories about the circumstances surrounding Elvis's death that had previously been confined to the tabloid margins. "It wasn't a tribute room, it was a vault of secrets," remarked one source involved with the inventory process. "Everything in that space tells a story completely different from the one the public has been told for decades." As analysis of the attic contents continues behind closed doors, one thing has become increasingly clear. The carefully preserved image of Elvis Presley that has endured for nearly 5 decades may be about to undergo its most significant reassessment since his death.
And now the end is near.
The legacy question. The discovery of Elvis Presley's sealed attic raises profound questions that extend far beyond mere curiosity about a cultural icon. As historians, family members, and estate managers grapple with how to interpret and potentially share these findings, they face fundamental questions about posthumous privacy, historical truth, and who ultimately owns a celebrity's legacy. Why was the attic hidden for so long? The most compelling explanation comes from newly surfaced correspondence between Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, and the initial Graceland estate managers in late 1977. In a letter dated October 3, 1977, Vernon apparently instructed, "The upstairs rooms and particularly the attic are not to be part of any future tours or opened for any purpose without the unanimous consent of all family trustees. My son valued his privacy in life, and in death we should respect that same desire." This directive, combined with Lisa Marie Presley's lifelong commitment to protecting her father's personal spaces, suggests the sealing of the attic was initially motivated by respect rather than concealment. Yet the extraordinary security measures and complete silence about its existence hint at deeper concerns about what the contents might reveal. "There's a fundamental tension in preserving any historical figure's legacy," explains cultural historian Dr. Margaret Wilson. "Do we honor their desire for privacy, or do we acknowledge that once someone becomes a significant cultural figure, aspects of their life inevitably become part of our collective historical record? Elvis didn't just belong to his family, he belonged in some sense to American cultural history." This tension has only intensified as details about the attic's contents have gradually emerged. The private recordings, journals, and medication documentation could provide valuable insights into Elvis's health challenges, creative struggles, and personal philosophy. Yet sharing these intimate materials would mean overriding what appears to have been his explicit desire for privacy. The Presley estate now faces unprecedented decisions about how to proceed. Initial statements have indicated that a careful and respectful assessment is underway, with Riley Keough taking the lead role in determining what, if anything, will be shared with the public or researchers. "This isn't just about satisfying curiosity," Keough stated in her only public comment on the matter. "My grandfather created a body of work that changed music forever. He also was a human being who deserved privacy. We're trying to honor both aspects of his legacy." Industry insiders suggest the estate is particularly conflicted about the recorded materials. On one hand, previously unheard Elvis recordings would generate enormous commercial interest and potentially reveal artistic dimensions of Elvis that have been overshadowed by his public persona. On the other hand, the explicitly private nature of these recordings presents serious ethical questions about posthumous consent. Perhaps the most profound legacy question centers on the journals and personal writings, which reportedly reveal a far more intellectually complex and spiritually searching Elvis than his public image has acknowledged. These writings could fundamentally transform scholarly understanding of Elvis as a cultural figure, potentially elevating his historical significance beyond the often simplified king of rock and roll narrative. If the journals contain what sources describe, they would reveal Elvis as a sophisticated thinker grappling with existential questions and his own complicated place in American culture, notes music historian Dr. Robert Jefferson. That's a far cry from the caricature that's often presented in popular culture. And what else is the Presley estate still keeping quiet, even now? This question looms largest of all, as the discovery of the sealed attic inevitably raises suspicions about what other aspects of Elvis's life and death might have been carefully managed or concealed from public view. Graceland, which draws over 600,000 visitors annually, has always presented a carefully curated version of Elvis's life, one that acknowledges his musical genius and cultural impact while softening the more troubled aspects of his later years. The attic contents suggest there may be far more complexity to the real Elvis than this sanitized version has allowed. As one former Memphis Mafia member who requested anonymity put it, Elvis was a complicated man who got trapped in a simple image. What they found in that attic is just the tip of the iceberg of who he really was. The question now is whether the world is finally ready for the real Elvis, or if they prefer the legend that's been crafted for them. The ultimate legacy of Elvis Presley, a man who transformed American popular culture while becoming almost imprisoned by his own iconography, may finally be undergoing its most significant reassessment in nearly half a century. Whether this